Well, first of all, you have to understand how we're built. You have to understand
Hmm.
how our brains are built. We're built for imprinting. Let me tell you about imprinting, and then we'll show you how it relates to Zionism and just about any other major belief system that we tote around inside of us.
Hmm.
Um, Once upon a time, Conrad Lorenz was into studying animals, and he had grown up raising birds. His father, I don't know what his father did for a living, but he made a very good living, and his father had bought a great big house out in a fairy tale forest in Germany. And that's where Conrad Lorenz was raised. And in his attic, he used to raise birds. He would make little holes in the wall, and blackbirds, jackdaws would come in, and he would raise them. And eventually, when he became a research scientist, he managed to wangle enough funding to buy his parents' old house and turn it into a research station. And because he loved birds, the research station was surrounded by birds, and he did most of his research on birds. And one day, Conrad Lorenz bicycled up the road to the research station, sort of like a big farm, and parked his bike and started heading for the back door, the kitchen door. And he noticed, have you ever seen how little baby geese and little baby ducks line up behind their mom and walk around after her in absolute single file, total regimentation, as if they
Yeah.
were little military recruits?
Hmm.
Okay. Well, Conrad Lorenz got to the kitchen door and realized that behind him there was a bunch of little baby geese, little teeny fluffy ones that were only 2 days old. And they were all following, guess who, in single file? Conrad Lorenz. Conrad Rents, opened the door, stepped across the transom into the kitchen, and guess who else tried to step across the transom into the kitchen, but were a little too small to get across it on their own? The baby geese. Well, Conrad Lorenz had a realization. There comes a time in a little baby goose's life, when it's approximately 2 years old, when its brain opens up and looks for something with certain characteristics and determines that that something is mommy and then latches on to that something for the rest of its life. One of the ways that Conrad Lorenz found this out was because that little batch of geese that had followed him around that particular day, they kept following him around as they got older and older and older. And eventually they became great, big, magnificent adolescent geese. Now, what happens in adolescence? Well, your sexual hormones go crazy, right? And you want to go a courting, and you want to seduce somebody if possible. And the geese all wanted to do that, but guess what they wanted to do it with? Not other geese, because Conrad Lorenz had been mommy for them, because Conrad Lorenz has stepped into that opening in their mind, which their brain literally morphologically locked around for the rest of their lives. Guess what they thought was the ideal lover?
Him.
Conrad Lorenz.
Yeah.
Yes. Or people who look like Conrad Lorenz, other friends. You can imagine how embarrassing this was for Conrad Lorenz when he had friends over. And all of the geese want to sleep with his friends or stay awake with his friends doing things that we're not allowed to talk about on PG rated radio or internet. Um, at any rate, and there's this wonderful, wonderful picture in the back of Conrad Lorenz's book on aggression. Lorenz won a Nobel Prize for all of this work, by the way, and it's a picture of these astonishing, magnificent geese. And you know how geese, when they're migrating, they travel in a V formation.
Hmm.
Well, these geese are traveling at approximately 4.5 feet off the ground, and at the very center of the V is Conrad Lorenz on his bicycle and Conrad Lorenz's head. You've never seen anything like it in your life. It's astonishing. So once you lock onto something, when your brain is open and ripe for something, and something steps in and has the particular characteristics of what your brain is looking for at that time, you're stuck with it for the rest of your life. I don't care how much you think you voluntarily assumed it or not. There are some things you don't voluntarily assume that are with you and will be with you for the rest of your life. And when I was 4 years old or 5 years old, there was a brand new Jewish center in my hometown, Buffalo, New York. And all of our parents got together and trundled us off to the Jewish Center. And one of the first things we learned, first of all, stepping through the entrance of the Jewish Center, there was a mural above the entrance of the Jewish Center. And it was a mural of people turning gardens into, or turning malarial swamps and turning deserts into gardens. And we were told that the general idea was that we were going to take this absolute hell pit called Israel, where very, very few people were able to live because it was malarial swamps and desert. And we were going to use modern technology and turn it all into garden. And then we were going to show our closest cousins on the face of the planet, the Arabs, who were living in really dismal conditions. We were going to show them how to do the same in the rest of the territory. And that was the Zionist dream, as far as I was concerned. And it's been with me ever since. I walked around the house at the age of 3 years old, and or to the extent that I could walk, and sometimes I crawled around the house, and there were little cans with blue and white labels, and my grandmother and my parents were literally dropping coins into these cans until they were full, and then sending them off so we could have a state called Israel that didn't exist yet. Because this was 1946 and 1947 before there was an Israel. And that was the dream of Zionism, as far as I was concerned. Which is why, to this very day, I cherish my Islamic friends tremendously. And my Islamic friends are people who believe in pluralism and freedom of
Hmm.
speech and the things that I believe in, and they are as threatened by militant Islam as I am. It's just that they're not willing to be as vocal about it because
Right.
they could have their throats slit, and I don't mind having my throat slit. I mean, if it's in the process of speaking up for something I think is really important.